Welcome to Rethinking the Dollar. Thanks for tuning in to today's interview. Today I'm excited to have my guest, Mr. Mark Campbell, CEO of Aton Resources, a gold exploration company in the Arabian-Nubian Shield region of Egypt, trading on Toronto Venture Exchange, ticker AAN, and over-the-counter markets in the States as ANLBF. Today, Mark joins us to share information on his company, Aton Resources, and some of the recent gold discoveries in the country of Egypt. So, Mark Campbell, welcome to Rethinking the Dollar.
Well, thank you very much, Mike. Glad to be here.
Well, I appreciate you taking time to sit down with us and share what's happening over in the Egypt area. And so it's not too often I get a chance to actually hear about opportunities happening outside this country. And so the whole goal with Rethinking the Dollar is to give people a little bit of information on opportunities that exist out there in the precious metals area. Sure. So before we dive any further, can you please share with us a little bit of your background and how you became CEO of a gold exploration company in Egypt?
Yeah, well, yes, that's a good question. I originally came to Egypt nearly 3 decades ago, but I came in the oil and gas and business. And in 1995, a company called Centamin, which was an Australian exploration company run by an Egyptian who had emigrated to Australia back in the 60s, Samuel Ragi, I got to know, and I got involved with Centamin then when it was still in the very early stages of its exploration. And the company then decided that they had a commercial deposit in 2001 and began mining in 2009. In 2009, another company at the time called Alexandra Nubia came along and asked me if I would join the board of directors, which I did. And then in 2015, we changed the management, and the board asked me to become the CEO, which I was happy to accept. And then the following June in 2016, we changed the name to Aton Resources.
Okay, interesting. Now, in your sector there's a lot of major mining companies that's experiencing depleted resources in reference to gold. And so can you explain how important it is for companies such as yours to really begin new discoveries of the precious metals?
Sure. It's very, very easy, just like oil and gas. Once you start producing, you have a declining asset. And it doesn't matter whether it takes 2 years or it takes 200 years. At some point, you're going to run through that asset. So it's very important for companies to be able to acquire, either through discovery or through acquisition, more production. And the importance is that, we see at the moment that through the past several years when we've had a tough exploration market, a lot of exploration budgets have been slashed. A lot of companies have pulled back. So the feeling is now that, the production will start to decline in probably the next year to 18 months. And it's very important that this is replaced. And if you think about it, the junior exploration companies are the ones who really go out and make the discoveries. And we're really the venture capital arm of the mining industry. And, the life usually of a junior exploration company is if they're successful in discovering a commercial deposit, then either they will sell that deposit to somebody, that project to somebody, or they will be bought up by a company that wants that project. And then in some cases, they will actually turn themselves into a mining company. So the big boys sit around and wait for us to make the discoveries, and then one way or the other, they will either we will do it ourselves, or they will look to buy us or buy the project off of us.
Right. Now, a lot of the Rethinking the Dollar viewers are used to actually buying physical gold. So what are some of the advantages of investing in a gold exploration company?
Yeah, it's about a 1 in 3 difference. I mean, usually gold exploration companies, less so producers, but more so with the exploration companies, the things that really drive the share price are going to be the project itself that it has, as close as it gets, the closer it gets to production, and then of course the gold price. Now, the longer out that the project, you think, well, it's got 2 years or 3 years, the less impact on you, because the gold price, to a certain extent, when you're an exploration company, doesn't really matter. You're not producing anything. You're not generating income. And so it isn't really as important to you as it would be if you're a producer or you're close to production. What is important, though, is that usually junior mining stocks, if we're in a good area, what have you, we actually will outperform physical gold, as I say, roughly about 1 in 3, because the potential upside for us is so much greater.
Now, Aton is located in the Egypt region, and so can you share with us some information about the mining jurisdiction in Egypt?
Sure. Egypt is, let me back up a bit. Egypt is one of the oldest gold regions in the world. They've been mining gold going back to just the early beginnings of the Pharaonic period. And right up until the British. After the Second World War, you had changing governments, you had Nasser come to power, or what have you. And so the mining industry, which is made up really of foreign companies, basically died. Oil and gas took off in the late 50s, early 60s, and mining became a sort of moribund industry. And this was really up until about, as I say, the mid-90s when sentiment arrived. Sentiment ended up discovering the Sukari mine, building the Sukari mine, which is a world-class producer. But it really had died. And one of the things was that they had done was they said, okay, mining is extractive, oil and gas are extractive, so they're basically the same business. Well, they couldn't be more different. I mean, from each other. The only thing they have in common is that they are extractive, but the economics are completely different. And so they applied oil and gas terms and conditions and ran it like the oil and gas industry, and that makes it very difficult. And so even though it's workable, it's a difficult environment to work in. Now, that said, there is only one publicly traded exploration company working in Egypt today, and that's us. You have Sentiment as a producer, and you have a company called Tani Stratex, which is a private joint venture company based out of Abu Dhabi. And so the fact of the matter is that you don't have a huge industry here. The government have recognized this, and Egypt is in a period where they're very pro foreign investment. They're working very hard. They've taken the IMF reforms to heart, and so they, in the beginning of this year, hired the big resource consulting firm Wood Mackenzie, who had revamped the Ecuadorian mining industry, to come in, review what is wrong, and give them an implementation plan of what is required to make Egypt a very attractive mining destination for exploration and mining companies to come to. And if you look at what had happened in Ecuador, you'll see that they went from a sort of 0 to 400 companies once they implemented these changes in about 18 months. So the potential here is huge. We ourselves hold a 738 square kilometer concession area here. We have 17 identified exploration targets. And we have one development project, which is Hamama, where we are in the process of finishing off a preliminary economic assessment to look at starting a heap leach mine at an area called Hamama.
Oh, interesting. So right now you're focused on an exciting project in the Rodruin. And so I've heard something about a legendary lost mountain of gold. How did you discover that project?
Yeah, well,
can you elaborate on that some for us?
Sure. Well, that I have to say is one of the most interesting stories going. Egypt, as I say, has a long history of mining within the country. And we have on our own license area examples of mining that go back to the Old Kingdom, right up to, we have 3 old British mines that closed just before the First World War, 2 gold and 1 high-grade tungsten mine. And we were doing, we had heard from Bedouins, there in some of the books that were written, there was talk about this mountain of gold, and nobody had ever found it. There's no name. There's no name to this mountain. There's no indication of where it was. And one of the areas that we have is called East Eridaya. And there we found archaeological remains of old a mining processing area, which we figured dates from about the early Arab period. But when we trenched around the area, we found nothing, yet it had high-grade tailings dumps, some of which ran over 20 grams a ton. So we couldn't figure out where they were getting this material. But through using satellite imagery, we were able to pick out these old paths that are about 3 kilometers away going up this mountain. And so last December, the geologists went up there just with a view just to see what might be up there. When they got to the top, it was one of those oh my God moments, because all of a sudden they saw all of these ancient workings. And as we've gotten into them, the place is riddled with them. They're all over the place, some of which go down to 85 meters below the surface, and then branch out in horizontal tunnels, which, think about it, these were all done by hand, some of which, they were processing this stuff 3 kilometers away. So, what they were chasing obviously was pretty good. So this has given us great hope, and it's a very exciting discovery for us because, we've called it Rodruin because originally it was so narrow and so steep at the top that they gave it the acronym ROD for rigid death, and then the geologists just extended it into Rodruin. So it really is exciting stuff.
Now, for those that may not be too familiar with the mining industry in general, what's some of the significance of the first batch of drill results recently released from the Rodruin project?
Well, we've put out two batches. The first one came from an area we call Aladdin's Hill. This was a series of ancient workings. And the first results we got showed some high-grade intersections. And what we've basically, our theory is that here we're going to have a large bulk mineable target that will be amenable to being open pitable, where we'll find good grades, and then we'll have these chutes of high grade. So what you saw in the first batch was exactly that, some good grades with these chutes of high grade mineralization. And then on the second batch, again, you saw some areas where you had some, really good grades. And most of these have gone to a fairly good way at depth. So we're hoping that, we'll continue this. And what we're doing now is we're moving eastward along the hill. And there are different areas that we're exposing through sampling and road building, where it gives us numerous drilling targets.
Okay, interesting. Now, before actual deposits further develop and produce, you have to have a variety of necessities such as water, electricity, roads, labor, and things of that nature. Now, are all those things in place with your projects currently underway?
Well, yes. One of the things about Egypt that is very interesting is that over the years, the government has spent hundreds of millions of dollars on infrastructure build. So if you look at where we sit in the Eastern Desert, we're 32 kilometers into the desert from a 4-lane modern highway. We've got power lines that run through our property. We have access to there should be groundwater, underground aquifers, but we also have access to large quantities either out of the Nile or out of the Red Sea. So we've got 2 international airports nearby to us. We've got low-cost labor, which again is prevalent in where we're at. So, we have got the one thing we don't have to really ever worry about is building infrastructure. It's not like being in Sudan where the government has no money and you have to build roads and power and all the infrastructure necessary. So Egypt actually is, potentially a very low-cost operating environment.
And looking ahead, what are some of your long-term projections for Aton Resources, give or take next 5, 10 years down the line? What are some of your thoughts on as far as future expectations?
Well, in the first blush, we're looking within the next 18 months to bring on our heap leach project at Hamama. But certainly, we're looking to fast-track Rodruin. And at the moment, we've got a 20,000-meter drilling program going on. We will go and drill up until before Christmas, just before Christmas, take a break, and then come back in January and carry on. And we think that, we would like to see us being able to get to a maiden resource on it by the summer. And we would hope that we might even be able to get to potentially looking at starting development within 5 years.
Interesting. So as we draw towards the end of our conversation today, it's been great to find out more about Aton Resources. Is there anything you want to share as far as the recent developments or anything of that nature with the Rethinking a Dollar audience before we let you go?
Well, I think from, for a lot of people, they don't really know about Egypt. Egypt's a very underexplored area, even though it has this rich history of mining. And one of the things about, being here when we are is that we are really first movers. As I say, we're the only listed exploration company in the world that works in Egypt. So, basically, everything that happens in a positive way will positively affect us. So, if you want to follow what's going on in Egypt, watch us. If you want to, it's as I say, we're the first movers here, and as far as exploration. So, we see a lot of great opportunity. We see a lot of great opportunity throughout the country, and as I say, we have 17 different exploration targets, so we see huge opportunity within our own license area.
Now, what's the best ways for the RTD viewers to follow the progress as well as keep up to date with what's going on over there in Egypt?
Yeah, I tell you, the best way is to just go onto our website, www.atonresources.com. We update that regularly. We put all our press releases on it. We put out press releases fairly often to keep people abreast of what's going on. It gives a very good overview of our projects. You can get a sense for what the terrain is that we work in and what we're doing. So if you go from time to time and look at our website, you will be able to follow very easily what we're up to.
Well, Mark Campbell, CEO of Aton Resources, it's been great having you join us on Rethinking a Dollar. I'm sure the viewers and as well as those listening in will have a great opportunity to find out more about your company, so they'll find all those links below this video here. And more importantly, I want to wish you the best of luck with the exploration in the days ahead in the Egypt area. So once again, Mark, thank you for joining us on Rethinking a Dollar.
Thank you, Mike. I appreciate you taking the time to talk to me.
My pleasure.